Hello and welcome to a new episode of TMDWP. This week I want to talk about books, specifically pre-internet books, for those of you who are as old as me and older, which is probably a lot of you actually, if my YouTube demographics are anything to go by. But if you're younger and don't know anything about Doctor Who reference books, I'd like to introduce you to some. And this was occasioned by an episode of the UFO cast I was recording the other day, and I needed to look up who played the first Barusa, because for whatever reason, Angus Mackay had popped out of my head. Rather than quickly Googling, I popped to my bookshelf and grabbed this, the programme guide. Now this is the 1989 edition of the programme guide, which for those of you that don't know, basically has a list of episodes, if it's a Hartnell story, a writer, a director, a cast list, and then a short summary of the plot, and then the title of the target novel, and who wrote that. And this was invaluable. I mean, I spoiled the plots of umpteen stories with this before I read or saw them, just zapping up the information. And then I also, because this is a slightly bedraggled second-hand copy, this was my record of what I had seen and watched. And if I look at it, I'm going to try and decipher what this was. So I think if I had read it, I drew a circle around the production code. And if I had seen it, I put an X next to it. And then on the other side, I think if I owned the book, I had a tick. And if I had bought the VHS and subsequently the DVD, I put a cross. So that was how I kind of kept track of what I had in my collection. And this by the end was pretty thoroughly full, because I had most of the Doctor Who collection. And I still go back to it because it is the quickest way of finding out actors sometimes. The second volume in that series is one called The Terrestrial Index, which is lovely. It's a, it comes in two parts, really. The first part is a first attempt at a sort of coherent history of the Doctor Who universe, going all the way back to Scaroth, I think, is the first thing that you have landing on Earth, through to the far future. And then there's a whole kind of techie section where you can easily look up which actors were in which stories by production code and things like that. It's a lovely little book. And then the Universal Databank, which is essentially a Doctor Who encyclopedia, which again, I looked this up again because of an episode of the UFO cast. It's proving very kind of Doctor Who influence. We do a section called Doctor Who Watch every time we do an episode, where we look at the actors who've been in that episode of UFO who've been in Doctor Who. And an actor came up in a small bit part, and I was like, I don't know what that character was. So I looked him up in here and discovered that he was in Ambassadors of Death as one of Carrington's henchmen. That was all because I had the Universal Databank. I'm sure all of this information has been superseded. It's all online, on wikis and things like that. But there's nothing quite like pulling a good old Jean-Marc Lefessier reference work off the shelf and dipping in now and again. Thanks for watching that episode. If you have any memories, please comment down below. Let me know if you have those books. Click over there for last time's video, click below to subscribe, click down there for a randomly selected previous TMDWP video.